As an instrumentalist, it's easy to focus on gear or parts of a sound that are either fun to mess around with or that sounds pleasant when playing by yourself at home. And there's nothing wrong with that, really. But when being in a band context, making recordings and such, you might have to think in a different way about your sound to contribute to the bigger picture. I thought it would be interesting to look at the guitar sound from a producer's point of view, so I met up with producer and sound engineer Oskar Björk from Heartifact Studio to have a chat around that. He has done some amazing work mixing my solo stuff that is under the name Jonathan Berg and also my side project Ephemeral Skies. And I'll let him introduce himself more in the video. But we had a really interesting conversation, so I'm very glad that I can share it with you. So let's get to business. So I'm here at Oskar Björk's place. He is a sound engineer and also a guitar player. And we're going to talk about recording heavy guitars and some cornerstones around that. So it's going to be like a general conversation around the subject. We can't touch it all, of course, but some important cornerstones. But before we're going further, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, all right. So my name is Oskar, and I have my own company called Heartifact Studio, where I do a lot of sound-related stuff. I work with live events, like a live engineer, and also rent out professional PA systems, backline and stuff like that. And I also do the production work, studio work, mixing for bands and artists, mainly focusing on metal and rock productions. I do variation of genres, but I'm very focused on rock and metal mix. I think that's the thing that I do the best and are most invested in. I also play in a cinematic metal band called Notion, where I am the producer and guitarist as well.
Yeah, and that's how we got in contact with each other, as he was mixing some stuff that I have done.
Yeah.
And that led up to us being here today. So before we're going further in deeper subjects, I guess we can talk about the role of the guitar first, like the guitar in a mix, the guitar contra other instruments.
Yeah.
And in a band we have the drummer, we have the bassist, we have the guitar player, we have a vocalist usually, and perhaps some keyboards, but that can vary a lot what kind of keyboard. So
absolutely.
And how do we put the guitar, where's the guitar place in there and how?
Yeah, I mean, this is a thing that I think of can vary a lot in different genres. And for rock and metal, the guitar takes up a lot of space in the overall mix. So it's a lot of distortion going on, and the guitar should be very like audible, like you can hear it in the mix. And that's one of the challenges in our genre, because we need to fit everything in there, and it should be like, a lot of times you aim for to have like a full sound, like a very meaty rock and metal sound is what you want to go for in a lot of, or mainly in that genre.
And contra to playing guitar by yourself, practicing or writing. Perhaps you want to dial in a sound that is very full and pleasant to play with. But putting it in a band context, in a mix, in a production,
it can be totally different thing.
So that's another challenge.
Yes.
And
one thing that comes in my mind right away is when you play guitar by yourself at home with an amp or a modeler or anything, you as you said, you get the full sound. But if you put it in a mix, the first thing I would do if I got a guitar track in a mix is like cut the bottom end, because that is gonna fill up the headroom and space of the mix and intrude with the bass and kick.
Yeah.
So many times when you listen to like the guitar track on your own in the mix, it sounds very thin because the bass have its space below it. That together they make like the richness or punch of the guitar.
Yeah. And I remember when I sent some files to you the first time, that you made a comment on that, the bass frequencies in the guitar tracks.
Okay.
I left it to you so that you can choose
Decide,
where
Of course.
to cut them.
That's a tricky thing.
Yeah, and how would you, as a producer, receiving files, how would you prefer to?
Yeah, I would prefer that because then I can make a choice. And it depends on a lot of things in the mix. Now I think on the whole mix, it depends on the tuning of the song, the key of the song, and for example, if you choose to have the kick or bass in the lowest frequency, that's a choice you need to make when you're sitting with a mix. Should the kick be lowest or the bass, the bottom end of the bass, be the lowest thing? And then the guitar should, obviously be like over the kick and bass, but where? If you have an 8 string, you want it pretty low. But if you have like the standard key and high key on the song, it really depends actually.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, around 100 hertz, 100 hertz, I usually am, but plus minus, that can vary.
But talking about that, the bass and the guitar have its natural distances between them also.
Yeah.
Although there are information that is very low on the guitar.
Yeah.
Their main points are a bit different from each other. But in a mix, what would be the biggest challenge for you to put the guitar, or what other instruments is battling the most with the guitar track?
Probably the vocals, because you need to like make the vocals clear, because the vocals is in most mixes, at least, the number one priority. It's the number one thing that needs to be clear. So a lot of time I tend to sidechain the distorted rhythm guitars to the vocals just a bit, but this still helps a lot with the clarity. So the guitar ducks the frequencies a tiny bit where the vocal is. So it's not like I equalize the guitar, but I instead use different type of processing to detect where the vocals are and put down the volume of the guitar in that frequency.
And that's how you keep the core sound of the guitar, and
exact.
but still making room for vocals or what it could be that
you get like the opportunity to have everything a little bit more clear. Not you remove the muddiness with this, and if you like abuse it and use too much, it will sound weird, of course. So you need to really like do this gentle, but just the gentle thing here is that can really like lift the whole mix and the clarity of every instrument.
And that's as I look at it, that's one important thing to learn, where to go drastic and where to be gentle. Because some moves can make a big difference, and you can find them very useful, but then you overdo them.
And that's been there, done that.
So that's very easy to do, to learn where to be drastic and where to not be.
And I had this period of time where I was very afraid to do something drastically, because I learned from school and everything. I've been to like the university in audio production now for 3 years. I'm done now with that, but it's like, don't do anything drastically, because that can change and you. But now I'm back to you can do some things drastically. You can do like minus 12 dB cut in the equalizer. If it sounds good, it is good, but you need to know when you like can do that, and that's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like your ears that decide what's good.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to have like respect for that, also to be like, you should be critical to the things you do, and like it can be a really hard decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just about experience, actually.
Yeah. And about finding the place between, we talked about mostly the bass and the vocals.
Yeah.
We make some choices along the way. It's not only in the computer, in the DAW, that we make the choices how to suit the guitar, how to fit the guitar in there. It's also on the way into the computer.
In the recording session.
So if we go into the signal chain, as a guitarist, I may tend to think that some parts are more important than other.
Yeah.
And as a producer in your clothes, I guess you might say that other things are more important than a guitarist would say.
Yeah, probably.
So what are your thoughts on a typical guitar signal chain, and what matters most?
Yeah, good question. I mean, everything matters. Every cable, like the amp, the cabinet, the guitar, the wood matter. Maybe not that much. The pickups can definitely matter in the guitar. One thing that I would say is often overlooked is actually the cabinet. If you're recording real guitars, a lot of the sound is in the cab, actually. And yeah, I think that can still be overlooked. And this translates, if we look at the modelers, to the impulse response, because the impulse response is basically a snapshot of the miking position of the cabinet. Yeah. So that's just one thing that
stand out.
Yeah,
I mean, of course,
exactly.
all things matter.
Everything matters, of course.
But if
you have single coils at a Stratocaster and you have like the metal ESP, it will. Yeah, the sound will
differ.
change.
Yeah,
of course.
But that's just to open our eyes to us guitarists, who might tend to look at some things that a producer wouldn't look as much at. So choosing a cabinet and the microphone placement.
Yeah, the microphone placement
is a very important choice.
Yeah, of course. Yes, and also. I mean, the room where you record at can also, even if you close mic a cabinet, the room will always be there because that's the space in record.
Why don't we dive a bit into the microphones and the microphone placements and talk a bit around that?
Yeah.
And I'm sure some things will come up that guitarists might not think about so much today.
Yeah, hopefully.
And we do have some usual microphones.
Yeah.
And we have a...
Yeah.
So this is a guitar
standard
speaker.
Yeah, 12
inch.
Yes.
And how do we go on about miking a guitar?
I mean, number one rule: listen to your ears. What is the best? And of course, this what type of brand matters.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it can make a very, very huge difference.
And many pro guitarists have their their choice of brands that they prefer and models. It's very important to them, just as much as a guitarist.
Yeah,
actually.
I have a Mesa oversized cabinet here, and it comes with a vintage 30, of the elements. And I actually switched one of the elements to a DAB77. It's like the Slipknot signature element, and it's the same cab as before, but it just sounds different. It's made a really big difference in the tone.
And also combining these monitors.
Yeah, also a cool thing. I when I do impulse responses, when I create them, I mean different types of elements have different types of quality, and some have a nice bottom end, some have a nicer top end. So to combine stuff is also really cool.
Yeah.
thing, and you can be very creative and have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
Actually, this is also applicable on impulse responses. It's the same way there, but when you're dealing with modelers such as Heartifact and stuff, you get. I mean, it's much easier to try different microphone combinations. And,
Yeah, it's faster to switch them and try different combinations, and you also avoid the phasing issues.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yes. And often, many times the plugins have like an auto sync with the phase, so it calculates the phase. If I were to mic this up, if this was on a cabinet now, I would probably go with a SM57 short microphone, very standard. Every studio has one, and it's not very expensive microphone. You have probably seen this.
I guess this is one of the best buys that you can do if you want to record a guitar.
So this is a dynamic microphone. When I record guitars, I tend to mainly use two microphones. So I tend to have one dynamic, and often, not always, I also have a condenser microphone. This is a Neumann TLM 102. Really love this microphone. It's also very good for vocals. Maybe one of my favorite top 3 microphone to record vocals with. I think this is a lot better many times than much more expensive microphones. Cool. But then I would probably start with the SM57. And if I put it like here, in the middle, it will be a very harsh sound, and maybe that's what you want sometimes. I tend to use it a little bit on the side, so I go this way a little bit, maybe aim here. That's my standard thing. And then I have this condenser microphone, and I put it even more to the side. So I have it I tend to use something like this. And sometimes I can move the angle of the SM57 a bit. And the thing that is really nice to have when you have two microphones is that you have different timbres, like tones, on the microphone, so you can blend them in different ways to craft a lot of the tone when you have already done the recording.
And what are a tonal difference between a condenser and a dynamic?
I would say, generally, this has higher quality. This also requires phantom power. So this is a more detailed microphone. It's a very detailed microphone. This is, of course, a very good microphone, and it's really hard to put words on why this is so good. It just sounds really nice, but it's not as detailed. If you look at the data on it, it still has everything you were to expect in a guitar tone. So you got the bottom end, you got the lows, you got the high. And it filters off the absolute top much more drastically than, for example, this one does. And this one has a different type of bass response as well. I would probably use more of the bass response from this microphone than I tend to do from this. Maybe more of the mids in this, if I look at in the equalizer.
So could you say that this is to capture the core guitar sound, the distortion sound?
I tend to use it like that.
And this is to complement and get the full full range.
Maybe I want to add a little spark, a little sizzling sound. Maybe I should could use this, and also for the really nice bottom end, like the shug part or anything.
So if you would want one microphone,
if I would want only one microphone, I would probably go with this. I could probably also get a great result with this. So. But then you need to think another way, because then you have just one placement and that's it. So I would probably not, if I only were to have one microphone, I would not mic it out here, because then I would need to compensate. It would sound very muddy out here and not so detailed in the high frequencies. So then I would need to have it somewhere like here.
And some other usual microphones that we see on a guitar cabinet.
Yeah, I can can show you. Here is actually, this is 3 dynamic microphones.
Yeah.
You can start with this one. This is a Shure SM7B, and maybe if you're a vocalist and guitarist, you have this microphone for vocals. I think this is a really great microphone for vocals as well. Really standard for like the screaming type of vocals, and you can get a really fat sound out of it.
The Michael Jackson microphone.
Michael Jackson microphone, yes. And it's also, I think it's very good as a guitar cabinet microphone as well. It's very like the SM57. They share a lot of abilities. And this is also a very handy microphone to have. It's the Sennheiser E906. It's a very useful in live situations, but also in studio as well. You can just take the XLR cable and hang it on the element here. And you need to, with this microphone, you need to know that you should see this one. This is the back side. You can be tricked by this. I have actually done it a lot of times. Yes. Why does the guitar sound like shit? Because I mic the audience. It's very easy to use.
Yeah, that's what you see in all the small clubs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
One of these hanging.
You don't need a stand.
You don't need a stand.
And it's also great for drums. Also,
you save some room for your feet.
Yeah, very small. Would probably use this as if I don't have an SM57 or just want another type of flavor, I would probably go with this. This is maybe a more uncommon microphone to have if you don't like have some kind of studio activity or anything like that. And it's not a very easy microphone to mic up with, but it's the Sennheiser MD421. Shares a lot of abilities with the 7B, I think, but it has different tonal character.
Yeah,
I think it's really good, really great microphone as well.
It's also a standard microphone, you could say, but not as common perhaps.
Maybe not as common. It's also great for vocals and drums as well. So it can be a good... If I were to choose just one microphone from here, I would probably go with this. And it's the absolutely cheapest microphone here as well.
Yeah. So that's why it's a good buy.
Yeah.
And also, that's where we are making one of the choices in separating the guitars from the vocals, which we talk about can get in conflict with each other.
Yeah.
Because that microphone really brings out the important frequencies.
Yeah. And it still has the little bump in the high frequency, not the absolutely like the highest, ridiculously high frequency, but it has like the little nice guitar bump that I think our ears are pretty like trained for.
Yeah,
it's good to have, and you can use it on so many sources. So drums great for snare as well. And like it.
Yeah, and about separating the guitars from other instruments, that's a great microphone to focus a lot on.
Yes, and it's I think it's like $100 or something like that. Yeah.
So we have gone through the subjects, the signal chain, some microphones, and the role of the guitar.
Yeah.
And as a heavy rock and metal guitarist of today, I think it's good to touch the subject digital sound and digital amplifiers and modeling.
Definitely.
Contra the analog or traditional way.
Yeah.
So what are some initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, both have their benefits, I think. And this is, all of this is just my own opinion, of course. It's very fun to play with the real amps and the cabinets. A lot of people don't have access to a lot of real amps and cabs and have the luxury of microphones and places. So I think that the modelers of today, like Axe FX, Quad Cortex, Kemper, Line 6, Helix.
An endless amount of plugins.
Really, I mean, the plugins as well. It's probably, it can be used on a high professional album without any issues. So just to have that opportunity is, I mean, it's great. However, I think it's beneficial to have some experience from the real amp and the miking of the real amps, because you think of, when you use the modelers, you think in another perspective. You see the amp in front of you, and where you put the microphone when you choose the impulse response in the. So, yeah, and of course, it's a faster way of getting a great tone, like use the modeling.
As you said about having some experience in a traditional setup, it's a very important thing to understand what a great guitar tone is, a guitar sound. So. And I can look at myself, even when I started my guitar journey in the late 90s. And somewhere in the early 2000s, I got a digital multi-effects from Boss, the GT6, I think. Okay. And it has all the effects and everything. Yeah. But it was so overwhelming to me.
Okay.
And then I sold it and bought an amplifier and some pedals.
Yeah.
And I had not so much to tweak around with, but I really learned to get the most out of that.
Yeah, like the gear you had, you made the most out of that.
Yeah, and I learned about what is a great guitar sound.
Yeah.
You know, a guitar straight into an amplifier.
Yes.
That is that's the core
tricky
sound.
Part, yeah, and everything is. It depends on what music style you're playing and what. How should the mix be, and how fat should my live sound be?
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
So learning about a traditional amplifier and traditional gear is very, very important knowledge to bring to the digital world.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I started actually also with like a modeler first. Probably like made some really weird sounding patches that I today would like oh what has happened here. But then I was also went into the like amp world just with actually pretty inexpensive gear, just to learn how to mic a cab, and now when I use a modeler again, I think of the real gear that I use in another perspective. Like the impulse response is, I can see how I mic the mic, like visualize that when I use the modeler. So yeah.
To sum it up, I guess one of the best ways are to bring the knowledge from amplifiers and the traditional setup, but to take the practical benefits of a digital gear.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's just a small unit, and you got great live sound wherever you go. Basically, one XLR cable to the mixing desk is like great.
Yeah, and I know that
it's cheating, basically, but.
And I know that you really do that a lot. Like you bring your analog gear into the digital world. Yeah. So that you can bring it in a case.
I use XFX right now, and I use. I mean, I have created a lot of impulse responses from my cabinets at home here with different microphones and different positions. I counted that I did like over 1,000 impulse responses on my cabinets with different microphones. So when I use my XFX, I actually use my own cabinet, not the power amp, because that's the one of the amps that's built into XFX. But I use an impulse response of my own amplifier when I do the live sound, and we will also use that when we record a lot of our guitars for our new album with Notion as well, combined with the real amps also and microphones.
So those are some thoughts around the subject, heavy guitars and putting them in a production, looking at it from a producer's point of view instead of just as a guitarist. And hopefully that will help you to make better guitars for a full production. That's what we're aiming for in this conversation, just to open up our eyes.
Yeah, and just get a little insight of a new perspective.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Thanks for
thanks.
listening to you.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah, I hope that brought some inspiration and that you got some new ideas for your next guitar recording. And if you do have any of your own, please share them in the comment section and we'll keep the discussion going further. I'll end this video by putting up some links to Oscar Björk and Heartifact Studio. So see you in another video. Take care, guys. Cheers.